Hey there, welcome back to our Harkla YouTube channel. We're so happy to have you here with us today. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jessica. We are the Certified Occupational Therapy Assistants with Harkla. And today we're going to talk about how primitive reflex integration takes time and consistency and is not a quick fix.
Okay, what? I know, it's hard to believe that the information that we share here is actually not a quick fix. And I feel like that is where primitive reflex integration is the hardest. That is definitely where the research lacks, although there is research, but that's where it lacks because it's difficult to follow through and carry through with these reflex integration programs, which is why we want to break it down for you today and explain what it looks like, what consistency looks like for primitive reflexes.
So we get this question all the time. How long will it take for my child to integrate their primitive reflexes? And what we teach in our course, what we teach in our videos, and everywhere we teach really, is that we want to complete an integration exercise for a minimum of 30 consecutive days. Now, because life happens, the consecutive part often doesn't work as well because we take vacations or somebody gets sick or maybe the child gets a little bit overwhelmed and needs to take a break for a couple of days, which is all of those are okay. What we talk about then is that it needs to be longer than 30 days. Oftentimes it takes 60 days, maybe even 90 days for the full integration to happen, for us to see the positive results in daily life. Because, like Rachel said, like we talked about in the intro, primitive reflex integration is not a quick fix. It's not just something that you can do for a couple of weeks and then everything's better. That's not how it works.
No, but it is really cool to see the progress when you do implement these reflex integration activities daily and consistently. I've noticed just from my son doing these activities, and we just do them for fun. We're not actually doing like a full reflex integration program, but supine flexion, like lifting his head up off the ground, when we practice that one consistently, he's able to hold his head up off the floor so much better. Also, the lizard crawl for the ATNR, that's another one that has always been a little bit tricky for him, and we've been doing it consistently every day, and he is getting so much better at doing it independently on his own. So we really do see that progress just with a little bit of consistency. Just imagine what would happen if we continued to implement these activities for 30 to 60 days. So keeping in mind that when we say quick fix, we're really not trying to fix anything. What we're trying to do is to help the child really feel their best, perform their best, and get out of that fight or flight state or primitive way of their brain processing the world and get into a more organized and higher level cognitive way of moving and thinking and acting. So we're really not fixing anything, but we really are just working on those underlying skills to get them to achieve their highest level of performance in all settings.
So if we take it back to infancy, our primitive reflexes integrate throughout infancy and toddlerhood. And this is not something that happens quickly or easily as the child is growing and developing. These primitive reflexes can often take up to 3 years to integrate through natural movement and hitting developmental milestones. So when we look at an older child whose primitive reflexes are stuck and inhibiting them from feeling good in their body, these reflexes might even take longer than they would have if they had integrated in infancy because the brain has already started to mature a little bit. It's kind of getting stuck in those patterns, those primitive patterns. So it takes a little bit more work, maybe a little more time to get out of those primitive patterns, to get out of those, primitive movements and ways of thinking and to create those new neural pathways for integration to access those higher levels of thinking and movement.
But here's the trick. Some adults with retained primitive reflexes may not just have to complete a 30-day, 60-day program. Sometimes what adults need, and sometimes even what children need, is they need to complete these exercises every day as part of like a maintenance plan. Just like we drink our coffee every day or our tea, just like we work out every day, we go for a walk, we have these routines and these rituals. Sometimes adults, sometimes children really perform the best and feel their best when they complete these activities on a daily basis. So you wake up in the morning and you do your cat-cows and you do your yoga and you do your crawling and you just complete these movements as part of the daily routine to get that brain really into its best optimal ability. Hey there, we want to take a quick minute and let you know about our new live upcoming webinar where we are talking all about multisensory processing.
Join us on Monday, January 20th at 1 p.m. Mountain Time for a free webinar where we are going to talk to you all about how multisensory processing activities are so important to include in the daily routine.
If you are an OT practitioner who works with kids with retained primitive reflexes, dyslexia, ADHD, any learning challenges, you will also earn 0.2 AOTA CEUs, which means it is 2 hours of continuing education units.
If you can't join us live, we still highly encourage you to register because you will be emailed the recording afterwards.
Hopefully we'll see you there. You can click the link below to register.
So we're going to give you 3 tips that can help you stick to a routine when you're working on primitive reflex integration. And the first one is to use a visual schedule. This could be a calendar on the wall. It could be a daily routine schedule that you use with your child. It could be using reminders on your phone or your calendar at home, tablet, whatever you're using. Use some sort of reminder system, visual calendar, visual system to keep track of making sure that you don't forget to do your exercises for the day or the week. You know, whether you're doing the full program or a maintenance routine. Using a visual to stay on track, using reminders to remind you to not forget will really help you get into that routine and that habit.
The next one is to do the activities with your child, participate with them, make it a family activity that you're doing every night before bed or every morning before school. Everyone get down on the floor and crawl. Everyone do their jumping jacks. Everyone do their lizard crawls. And that way it's like a friendly competition and it's not like, okay, Johnny, go do your reflex integration exercises. And he's just like, you know, no way, that's boring, you know. Spend time, build connection, because honestly, connection is really a cornerstone of these reflexes even beginning to integrate as well.
Yeah. And then the third tip here is to have some sort of goal or reward that your child is working for. If they need a little bit of extra motivation to do the exercises, to keep with the routine, if they're able to, have them create a goal or a reward that they're going to work towards, and then they can use their visual schedule and do it as a family and work towards that goal or reward. And then once they achieve it, it's so exciting, it's so motivating, and it can help them then be motivated to do the next set of exercises.
Should I tell them what we've been doing for motivation at our house?
If you want to. As just an example.
Yes. So, like I said, we've been doing our exercises, and the key, no judgment here, this is a judgment-free zone. My kids love like a squirt of whipped cream. And so what we'll do is we call it the whipped cream workout. And so every night they're like, Mom, we want to do the whipped cream workout. And I'm like, okay, don't mind if we do. And
wait, because do you also get some?
Obviously. Yeah, Mama needs a treat too. I'm doing the exercise. But they'll, you know, we'll take turns picking activities to do. And right now they know like kind of the routine and the sequence of activities. So they'll kind of go through the order. After they do an exercise, you know, 10 times, they'll run over and they'll get like a little squirt of whipped cream each. And then I get a squirt as well. So
great.
It's a win-win for everyone. It's exciting for them. It's motivating for them. So that's what we mean by pick something that works for your family. If that's not your vibe, that is okay. That just happens to be what my kids are very into right now. And so I am going to run with it for as long as I can.
Yes, there you go. If you found this video helpful, if you liked it, enjoyed it, share it with a friend, leave us a comment, ask us any questions in the comments below. Make sure you click the like button and subscribe to our Harkla YouTube channel.
Yep, and make sure that you're listening to our podcast as well. It's All Things Sensory by Harkla. You can find it on all major podcast platforms. You can also find it on YouTube. It's on video on Spotify, YouTube, all the things. And it's fabulous. We have lots of information there. Almost 400 episodes, actually.
Probably by the time this YouTube video is out, we're at 400 already.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, it's a lot. If you enjoy our content, make sure you're following us on Instagram. We're at Harkla_family, as well as at All Things Sensory Podcast.
And just a heads up, if you are concerned about your child's development in any way, we always say when in doubt, rule it out. Get an occupational therapy evaluation, talk to your pediatrician, and make sure that you are advocating for a primitive reflex screening or assessment.
And if you want to learn more about primitive reflexes, we have a free webinar and a full digital course where we teach you about primitive reflexes, how to test for them, them and how to integrate them.
Yes, and with that, we will be back next week for another video all about primitive reflexes.
Okay, bye. Do you remember what you were going to say?
No.
Okay.
No. You need to get whipped cream.
Oh my
Go
gosh.
get the whipped cream. We need it.